Welcome back to the Jack Swarbrick Show. Our first guest today is beginning his 30th season as a collegiate assistant coach and his 9th as a member of the Notre Dame coaching staff. 2015 marks the 6th year of Mike Denbrock's second stint with the Irish. Mike coached Notre Dame's offensive tackles and tight ends from 2001 through 2004. After stints at Washington and Indiana State, Coach Denbrock joined Coach Kelly's first staff in 2010 and has remained on the staff ever since, coaching tight ends in 2010 and 11 before moving to wide receivers in 2012. Denbrock has also served as passing game coordinator, offensive coordinator last season, and is the associate head coach this season. One of his responsibilities this fall is to put together the offensive game plan each week. 6 players from Denbrock's position groups at Notre Dame have been selected in the NFL draft, and Coach Denbrock has also been named one of the top recruiters in the country by both Rivals.com and 247sports.com.
Coach, thanks so much for joining us. This is the primo spot. First guest, first show of the year. You've arrived.
I know. I hope I can live up to the hype. I mean, I'm just trying to contribute a little bit here.
And I just want you to know that in the first segment of the show, Joe made reference to how well paid our coaches are. So I really appreciate him doing
thanks,
that.
Joe, very much.
I thought everyone just needed to know. So.
There may be some debate where that's concerned, but I really appreciate you bringing it up.
That's my fault. I'm gonna take that.
Strike that,
there.
Joe.
Yeah, strike that one off the record.
Coach, one of the things that when I'm at practice I get to see a lot is we do a lot of one-on-ones, 1v1s. What kind of challenges does my co-host present when you're lining up each day playing against him?
Yeah, I mean, Joe is an interesting character in a lot of ways. He's a great football player in that he understands the linebacker position, I think, as well as anybody in the country. He's hard to fool. I mean, he's a very smart, well-educated young man, not only off the field but on the field. And it's really kind of fun for me to try to design some things to kind of give him a pain in the neck, if you will. And we talk on the sidelines when there's a little break in practice and we get a chance to kind of commiserate together on the sidelines about how hot it is or what's going on the practice field. We're always talking back and forth about, hey, Coach, I really like what you guys are doing and your scheme, and it's hard to defend. And right back at you, Joe. I mean, it's difficult to contain and make sure we have a plan to fool our linebackers and get their eyes off their keys and do some of the things that we're trying to do. So it's a great give and take always, and it has been since Joe and I first met each other.
Oh yeah, I mean, it really is it's a blast going against your offense all the time. And you brought up those talks. So those are some of my favorite parts of practice. Is when we get a 5-minute break here or there, and I get to ask him about, hey, what about that play? How did how did that happen? And is there any way we can even defend that play?
And no secrets are given.
Oh,
no secrets are returned.
Yeah, no.
Because I know you don't need them. You're going to figure it out for yourself.
He just kind of smiles at me, shakes it off, and so it's always a blast, though. It really is. But so I mean, we got a couple. I gotta give a couple shout outs to my freshman California guys here on the offensive side of the ball. Notably C.J. Sanders, Equanimeous St. Brown.
Yeah.
I know EQ is from Servite. We'll forgive him from that.
I know you don't like that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, Servite's a big rival high school of Mater Dei High School where I went to school. But talk a little bit about the incoming freshman class, even Alizé Jones. Just a little bit about their impact and how they're doing so far and what they bring to the offense.
Yeah, I think the first thing is just their maturity level that they came in with. They've got a firm background in football, as you know. I mean, where you played your high school ball and Servite in particular, that's a pretty strong football, hotbed there of really good, competitive young men. And that really is carried over here. They really have kind of picked up where they left off at the high school level. Haven't been intimidated by their surroundings whatsoever. And I think on top of that, have a real ability to learn our system and kind of get themselves up and running maybe a little bit earlier than you may have thought they could. But they've done nothing so far to do anything but what we've asked of them and really excelled at those things that they're specialized in, which is running and catching the football. Yeah. And we got to find a way to get those guys on the field.
Unbelievable. I mean, Alizé Jones has made some of the most spectacular catches I've seen here in camp, and I can't wait to see how you come up with different ways to get guys, all these different guys, the ball on Saturday. I was talking about this with Malik last night at dinner, and I was like, I really have no idea that that's got to be a blessing and a curse trying to get. And then I haven't even started to talk about the guys that have been here for a while.
Right.
That you still have to find ways to get the football. So it's got to be fun for you.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, there is only one ball,
right?
And I think it starts with that. But we've got such an unselfish attitude about our football team, and the offense in particular. They don't care how it gets done as long as it gets done, and we all feel the same way about it, from the offensive staff to the players to, we just want to make sure that we're doing the best things we can do for Notre Dame football. So having that many different weapons and different styles of play that we can use, and I mean, it's way more of a blessing than it is anything else.
Oh yeah,
Mike, you as the associate head coach, one of your responsibilities is building the offensive game plan, developing it, installing it. Give us a little sense of what that process is like as you approach a game week. How do you build it?
It really starts probably, at the beginnings of the week with, hours and hours and hours of poring over your opponent and making sure you've got a pretty good idea of the things that they like to do, not only in their base packages, but what they do in their sub packages, as far as when they get into nickel or when they get into 6 defensive backs, even sets, different positions on the field, whether it's red zone or, going into score, backed up against your own end zone. And you kind of begin to formulate from what your base offensive plan is, how your plan fits against what they try to do defensively. And then some things get thrown out, some things get added, some things get tweaked a little bit along the way as the week goes along. Mondays are really kind of that prep day for us. Tuesdays are more specialized into maybe first and second down calls, what we're going to do on those down and distances. When we get to a Wednesday, headed into Thursday, it's more specialized into red, white, and blue zone, or going into score, or backed up against our own end zone, third down situations, end of game situations, overtime. All those scenarios need to be practiced, and you need to have a plan for each and every one of those. So that's kind of what we spend our time when we're not on the practice field doing, making sure we're putting our players in the right position so we can have success if those situations come up in the game.
Coach, I'd like to, we talked a little about the guys catching the ball. I mentioned Malik, the guy throwing the ball, running the ball. I'd like to ask a little bit about Coach Harry Heestand,
sure,
and the offensive line, which I feel like are the unsung heroes of your offense. And I have to deal with them every single day, and those guys are some of probably the best group I've ever been against. So can you just tell the guys on the radio here a little bit about Coach Heestand how he's really created this group that is so finely tuned and so close-knit?
Yeah, well, I mean, it begins with him. I mean, the offensive line has Harry's personality all over it. He's a very tough-minded individual that demands very fine details and competitiveness out of the guys that he coaches. And the offensive line has really taken on that persona. They really kind of come to business every day. They come to work with that type of mindset, and they take the practice field together. They leave the practice field together. They go to dinner together. They go to meetings together in a large group. I mean, it looks like a cattle drive sometimes when they're
really
especially when they're rolling to the chow line. But I think it starts with Harry, and then the collection of individuals that we have there, as you've already pointed out. I think a little bit you guys have talked about. Nick Martin, Ronnie Stanley, and right on down the line through Mike McGlinchey and all those guys are of one heartbeat and of one mind, and they play the game that way, and that's the way you've got to play great offensive line with that sort of mentality, and then the physical toughness goes with it, and they've certainly got that.
Oh yeah, and you're not joking about that cattle drive. They go everywhere and anywhere together all the time, and it's almost threatening for a linebacker. You gotta have to flip your brain off and get away from those linemen. So. It's a fun time.
I mean, they were up I saw you guys in the food line last night. Joe hit and shed, one of the offensive tackles. I was like,
just reactionary.
Practice is over, Joe. Practice is over. Take it easy.
You got to be careful with those guys.
One of my favorite moments of practice during camp was an appearance by Chance Denbrock. I hadn't seen him in a long time, and he was there with Diane. Tell us a little bit about family.
Oh boy! My beautiful wife Diane is the heart and soul of our family. she really holds the whole thing together, as you know, with the hours that we are in the office and stuff. Somebody's got to be home taking care of business, and she does it better than I think anybody else could ever do it. And then Chance Michael, my son, who's going to be 4 here on October 19th, is just an unbelievable miracle. He's the best thing that ever happened to me in my life by far. It's not even close.
He's got a little Joe Schmidt look about him.
He does. He's got a little blondish hair, yeah, and he's got some toughness to him, and he's stubborn. So I would say he's pretty much like Joe. That's pretty close.
I guess you got that. He's better looking than I am, that's for sure.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. I had poor jeans. What can I do? They got me on camera.
Stop
they
that.
all know.
Your
They all
mother
know.
and father are very nice-looking people, so I just want to make sure I get that out there.
See, there's the recruiter right there. You see that? He got me without even recruiting
Well,
me.
you get mom and dad,
it's
and the
unbelievable.
rest of it's easy.
Coach, we've one of the changes in the offseason is a little bit more of an investment and attention to analytics for Notre Dame football, both in terms of personnel and some of the things we have. What roles it play for you? How is it? Do you use it much?
Yeah, it's tremendous, actually, a tool for a football coach in that, we've spent time finding out how our guys learn. That's number one. So you can structure your meetings differently. Does a guy need more walkthrough than he does board time? Does he need more film study than he does walkthrough? And we've really used those components of what our players, the way they learn their football the best or learn anything the best, to try to incorporate those in the way we meet every day so that we're making the most out of the meeting time that we have. And then kind of going back and looking through tendencies of how we do things and how we've done them in the past, and making sure we're not repeating, number one, mistakes of the past, but number two, repeating, doing the same thing the same way over and over, so that guys like Joe, who are very smart football players, get a read on how we're trying to do our scheme or trying to call a game or whatever it happens to be. So we've really, I think, more than any other time since I've been here, really dug into the nuts and bolts of every single aspect of what we're doing in our program and tried to find ways to do it better. And that's a big credit, Jack, to you, and it's a credit to Coach Kelly for being willing to go through that process.
And that stuff's really helped me. I mean, I think even just, having Coach Van Gorder, maybe spend a little bit more time having me draw stuff up. So, I mean, there are so many different ways that guys learn, and that whole process was such a great advantage for us. So, if that was you, Mr. Swarbrick, or Jack, sorry, I can't say Mr. Swarbrick right now. But
That's right.
but thank you.
You bet. Coach, can't thank you enough for taking the time out to join us today. We wish you the best of luck.
Appreciate
the
it.
whole season and the weekend. And thanks for all you do for Notre Dame.
Well, thanks. I appreciate you, Jack, and all you do for Notre Dame as well. And Joe, I can't wait to get it on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
I can't wait, man.
The excitement's building, and I know our football team's going to be ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Coach.